Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Westmont Village Board meeting for Thursday, January 23rd, 2014. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gunther is absent tonight. Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Addington.
Here.
Trustee Barker.
Here.
Trustee Barry.
Here.
Trustee Nero is absent tonight. Trustee Seneca. Here. Manager Searle.
Here.
And Public Works Director May.
Here.
And Attorney Perez.
Here.
Everybody? Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
And
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see we have no open forums tonight, so we will proceed to reports. Under the mayor's report, we have tonight the presentation by the Westmont High School Changemakers Program. So would Mrs. Therese please come up and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, everybody, for inviting us. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to introduce you to our students, our Changemaker students. My name is Michelle Therese, and I am the media specialist at Westmont High School. I'm also the Changemakers coach. Changemakers is a new course offering at the high school that allows our students who have a special passion, it provides them with the time to really explore and research that passion and actually make some changes in the community. Our projects, our student projects are very diverse, as you will see tonight, but we all have the same theme, which is change. So some of our students are looking for change in the community, in the world, and within themselves. Our goal here tonight is to provide the students with an opportunity to present in a public forum and gain some authentic feedback from the community, but most importantly, we want them to start to feel comfortable with starting a dialogue and discussion in the community about issues that are meaningful and relevant to them. So I'd like to introduce our first student, Nikki Duran. Nikki's an exceptional writer, and she's here to introduce her project. She's publishing a book, and she'd like to read you a summary of her novel.
Thank you, Ms. Therese. Nearly 100 years ago, the Queen of Hearts split her soul in half, creating the Queen of Diamonds to rule over the overworld, what was once the Earth. Every 4 years, 10 girls aged 15 to 25 are sent down the rabbit hole. Due to the heart's powers, every girl born, no matter where they are, is born with blonde hair and blue eyes. And so no one is safe. No one has ever returned from the Wonderland, not since Alice Little herself. But there is a resistance. A small group of people who plot to kill the queens and save the girls. As of yet, none of the resistance has been chosen, but Ashley Lewis will not be deterred. She is determined to find a way down the hole and save the girls. However, Wonderland has changed. It's darker and dangers lurk everywhere, and Ashley Lewis is about to stumble upon Wonderland's biggest secret and perhaps greatest danger. My name is Nikki Duran, and I'm a writer. My project has very little to do with change when you take it at face value. I want to publish a book. But if you take a closer look, it means so much more it's so much more important than people naturally assume. Publishing a book, even writing a poem or reading one, is fundamentally significant to young teens' development. The majority of my generation deals with stress from thousands of different sources, and most of them are fighting more nefarious battles. Writing gives them a sense of empowerment, of release that they might not receive in any other situation. The feeling of empowerment is not always visible, but to them, it's the world. I want teens to know that it's okay to have feelings, that it's okay to let them show. I want teens to know that if they're dealing with something, they can write about it and talk about it. But not everyone has that, and our next speaker, Laura Bowling, knows that firsthand.
Thank you, Nikki. As Nikki mentioned, writing can be a powerful tool to help empower teens who are troubled or need a way to find their voice. Writing can help these students because they can put their feelings on paper rather than taking their feelings on themselves physically. I've been bullied numerous times. I had no self-esteem and confidence at all whatsoever. I've been called just about every name in the book: fag, worthless, freak, retard, and a poser. I've even been bullied by my own father because he hates me because he used to hate me because I'm lesbian. One time it got so bad that I had to be hospitalized because I was on the verge of committing suicide. In 2011, I called 911 because I was on the verge of ending my life. I was brought to Good Sam, and I was there for 7 hours. Then I was transferred to a mental hospital in Streamwood. There I was diagnosed with major depression, severe ADD, and anxiety. I was there for 9 days. I was also prescribed Cymbalta for my major depression and Adderall for my ADD, and nothing for the anxiety because I refused to take anything. I stopped taking Adderall and Cymbalta. I recently stopped taking Adderall and Cymbalta because I feel that I can actually focus now and that I feel so much better now. I made the honor roll first semester of this year, and I'm on a really good start this semester. I'm currently seeing my second therapist, and she's helped me out so much. And now my dad respects me for who I am and apologizes and we are pretty close. Victims of bullying feel unloved and unwanted, which can make them vulnerable targets for abuse. Bullying can be verbal, physical, and emotional. Bullying happens online, in schools, basically anywhere and everywhere. My goal for my project is to stop bullying in schools and in society, to raise awareness about suicide due to bullying by working with anti-bullying groups at my school. There are other forms of bullying that are more serious and violent, including crimes against women. Heather Blaney is studying human trafficking. Human trafficking is a type of bullying because many victims are treated horribly and are forced into doing things such as drugs and selling themselves on the streets.
Hello, my name is Heather Blaney, and I'm a sophomore at Westmont High School. The goal of my project is to raise awareness about human trafficking. I will accomplish this by organizing a conference at the Westmont Public Library on May 8, 2014. Human trafficking is an organized criminal activity in which human beings are treated as possessions, to be controlled and exploited. And like victims of bullying, they not only suffer physically, but also psychologically. They feel unnoticed, unloved, and they lose hope of escaping the slave trade. It breaks my heart that the average age of these victims is 11 to 14. The reason for why I chose this issue for my project was motivated by my Christian beliefs. When I first learned about the brutal reality of human trafficking, I felt that God was calling me to make a difference in the world by raising awareness about human trafficking. I hope to educate my local community and call them to action to end this modern-day slavery. Furthermore, I want to give a brief overview of the extent of this problem. Globally, there are 30 million people around the world enslaved. In the U.S., there are about 59,644 people enslaved. In Chicago alone, an estimated minimum of 16,000 to 25,000 women and girls are victims of commercial exploitation in Chicago every year. Please keep in mind that Chicago is only about 35 minutes away from Westmont. I'd like to add that there are many misconceptions about human trafficking. People commonly associate human traffickers, also known as pimps, with African American males who wear fur coats, colorful suits, ridiculous hats, and lots of bling. However, in reality, human traffickers often try to look as normal as possible in order to trick people into the industry, often by promising them a chance for a better life. It's wrong to stereotype all pimps as African Americans, and Maya Brielle, who is our next speaker, will go into further detail about the cruelty of racism.
Thank you, Heather. Growing up, racism never made sense to me. My dad's half black, half white. My mom's West Indian. My dad's boss was Italian, and some of my mom's best friends in high school were Indian. When I got to high school, I noticed that no one talked about racism. People seemed to run from the discussion. The goal of my project is to start conversations about race in my school. I plan on making a series of videos. The first one will be just teens talking. The second one, adults talking about racism. And the last one will have teens and adults talking about racism together. The reason I want to do this is because for years, people have been afraid of differences among others, differences that they are unable to change. The world would be a much better place if humans would realize that we are 99% alike. Racism can be depicted in many ways. The Aspen Institute Roundtable on Community Change wrote an article called Structural Racism and Community Building. In the article, they said that youth of color appeared in crime news 52% of the time. Youth that are white appeared in crime news only 35% of the time. Katie Charlton will further detail the problems in the media.
Thank you, Maya. I'd like to present a hypothetical situation to start. A guy walks in with a megaphone. He isn't the smartest person at the party, or the most experienced, or the most articulate, but he's got that megaphone. So he starts talking. What happens? Well, people turn to listen. Some are agreeing with him, some disagreeing, but because he's so loud, their conversations will begin to react to what he's saying. As he changes topics, so do they. His main characteristic is dominance. He crowds the other voices out. His rhetoric becomes the central rhetoric because of its unavoidability. This is a quote from award-winning author George Saunders in an essay about media. His point is that media can have the power to dictate our conversation and even the overall tone of our society. Think of the conversations you have every day. The newest celebrity scandal, a news piece about suburban crime statistics, or your opinion on the latest movie or book you saw or read. The media can give great insight to the world around us. With modern technology, we can have stories broadcasted directly to us from anywhere on Earth. However, when the top news story is about Justin Bieber egging a house, I think we can all agree the media isn't quite living up to its full potential. Media literacy is an up-and-coming movement dedicated to teaching individuals, mostly youth, how to effectively dissect and analyze the media they're exposed to, and how to create informative and innovative media for themselves. Through this Changemakers class, I hope to become a part of the media literacy movement, first by writing essays about problems that I find in the media, and then proposing some possible ways to begin fixing those issues. Some of the topics I plan to cover are the lack of international coverage in media, and the way media affects youth and their relationships. Like my classmates, my work is about empowerment. For everyone, especially for youth, it is important to have control over the information they receive, and media literacy is dedicated to exactly that. Thank you for your time.
And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for letting us come tonight. I hope you were as inspired as I have been working with these students. And
Mrs. Therese, this
Thank
is
you.
Westmont High School at its best.
It absolutely is.
Thank you.
I am just so proud of every one of those students, wise, so wise beyond their years, and it just speaks very highly of Westmont High School and just the caliber of the kids in our community. And thank you for doing this program. And
Thank you so much. I'm
thank
honored.
you
Thank
to
you.
all of you.
I'm Marie Charlton, on behalf of the parents and CUSD 201. I would just like to thank the Village Board for taking a couple minutes out of your time. The Changemakers class is a brand new class in our district, and it's kind of groundbreaking. And Ms. Therese is working on it. And part of the project is to make change, and the way they have to do it is to speak in public. So I would like to really thank you very much for giving these students an opportunity to speak, and again, thank you for your participation and letting us be here. Thank
And
you.
they can watch themselves on YouTube or Channel 6 or 199 if you have AT&T.
And that's positive media
Yes.
coverage.
I'd also like to have a progress report in a few months on how it's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, really.
Great.
You know, another thing too, the part of the Changemakers is as these kids are students, as seniors, they can add these to their resumes when they're looking
Absolutely.
for college transcripts, and it's something a little different that might set them apart. So, you know, I applaud our high school and Ms. Therese, and
you.
particularly the students who have kind of gone out of their comfort zone to work on this. So.
And what a wonderful job. Nobody was even nervous. How did they do that?
Mrs. Therese, you're always welcome.
They were fabulous.
Mrs. Therese, you're always welcome to come back with the students.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes, sir.
Question for Laura. When I go over to the high school, I've seen several posters about bullying. Is that part of your work? No.
I am involved.
You just started. She just joined this class this
Okay.
semester. So she's only had about a week and a half with us, so she hasn't gotten a chance to start yet. But
Okay.
she will.
But keep that up. That's important.
It's great.
Yeah, all of you. Unbelievable.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Okay, and the mayor left nothing else for me to report, so we'll go on to the clerk.
I have a few things to report tonight. First of all, I want to offer my sympathy to the family of Carrie K. Mack. His wife Judy lost her father this week, so they've been very busy with that. Also, I'm going to ask everybody to be a little more patient during this harsh weather with waste management. If they do not get to you on the day of your pickup, they will get to you the next day. They've had a lot of difficulty. I mean, I live with an alley pickup, and I've seen them trying to come through our alley, and it's very difficult, and I think you just have to give them time to get to you. They will get to you, and they will pick up your garbage and recycling, but be patient and understanding, as I hope you are with all of us at this time, because it has just been snowstorm after snowstorm and harsh weather after harsh weather. Our public works guys are working around the clock. Everybody's working as hard as they can, our public safety people, so just be a little patient. And another reminder about waste management is if your collection day falls on a major holiday, Waste Management will perform their service on the following day. The next such holiday will be Memorial Day, followed by the 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the New Year's. So they always get it the next day, so everybody's programmed the day after, you have to lose a day there. But they will get you, and like I said, just show a little patience and understanding at this time, and check on your neighbors.
Thank you very much. Well spoken. Village Attorney.
I don't have any report, but I did want to send my condolences to Carrie K. Mack and his family.
Thank you.
I forgot something that I was asked to announce, and I'm sorry. We have a coat drive going on here at the village, and it has been extended to the end of January. So January 31st is the last day you can drop off coats. You can bring your donations here to the Village Hall, the Westmont Police Station, the Westmont Fire Department, or the Westmont Park District Community Center. So if you have a chance, drop off some gently used coats for people that need them. Sorry about that.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Village Manager.
Thank you. Just one quick editorial comment. Every time this year we're approached by our contract service that does our mosquito spraying, and I have to admit this is one of the first times in many years that I actually don't mind thinking about those pesky little bugs. Tired of the snow and the cold, as I'm sure everyone else is. But they're coming tomorrow to talk about the annual report, and the planned services for the spring is hopefully the weather gets better here soon. Wanted to ask for a executive session on land acquisition following the meeting, and I wanted to remind Trustee Barker, I think you're going to talk about the L-Fest under your report, and I wanted to invite Chief Mulhern to the podium. He wants to talk briefly about the heroin town hall meeting that they had last evening, and some additional information that relates to some questions that I think that came up at the town hall last evening.
Thank you, Manager Searle. Last night at the Westmont High School, we held a community forum called Suburban Secret, and it was involving the heroin epidemic and the heroin equal opportunity I wouldn't say pandemic, but equal opportunity problem that is causing throughout the county. Heroin in DuPage County is last year caused the highest amount of overdose deaths in heroin that the county has ever experienced before. Back in, I believe it was in July, it peaked out at over 15 deaths. At that point, the DuPage County Chiefs of Police, the DuPage County Sheriff's Office, DuPage County, and just law enforcement in general decided we must take a stand. And it was pointed out last night, this is not something that we're going to be able to arrest our way out of. We're not going to be able to solve this by arresting all the users or the dealers. It has to start with a grassroots efforts to start an educational campaign. And we've done that. And the coroner, Jorgensen, last night indicated, and I found out today, going from that number of 15 in July, or it was exceeded 15, I want to say it was close to 19 deaths. In the month of December, there were 0 overdose deaths, and we just found out today, so far in January, there are 0 overdose deaths. So we're taking that as a sign of that what we're doing is working. Last night, we had an hour and a half community meeting that was very well attended, had over 125 students and parents in attendance. I want to just basically thank the following guest speakers, and that was State's Attorney Robert Berlin, our coroner, Dr. Richard Jorgensen, Chief of Police for Bartlett, I have to make sure I got it right this time, Kent Williams, and we had State Representative Patricia Bellick, Patty Bellick was there, along with State Representative Dennis Roboletti. And then we had 3 guest speakers from, it's called LTM Heroin Awareness and Support Foundation. We had Angelica Salvaggio, Felicia Mycelli, and Nick Gore. And Nick is a recovering addict. He's a recovering heroin addict, and he told the crowd about what he would do, basically get up in the morning, figuring out how he could steal, how he could score some dope, get that done, get up the next morning, and how he'd steal and how he could go score some more dope. That was his life until he finally decided to get some help and is now a success story. And then unfortunately, Felicia and Angelica spoke about her cousin who was a heroin addict and died in an overdose, and Felicia was her cousin's mother, or her aunt, and spoke about the loss of her son. And also present in the audience was a mother who lost her son to a heroin overdose just this last October. At the end of the presentation, I did ask the students, does this presentation make an impact on them? And there were a group of about 20 high schoolers there. There were students spread out the whole thing. There was a group of 20. And at one point in the presentation, there was not a dry eye in that building. And asked them if this forum made an impact on them. And it wasn't just like, yeah, it was enthusiastically yes. And so, and I know Trustee Berry may hand on it, but we were asked, everyone in that building last night was asked, just don't go out and talk to 1 or 2 people, tell 5 people. And those 5 people tell 5 more people. Just leave the heroin alone, stay away from it. It's just too easy, and it will kill you. So with that, the other samples are, real quickly, was that one of the problems that kids are doing now is what's called a farming party. And it's not the kind where you go out and grow green beans and grow corn. It's where they go and take pharmaceuticals from from medicine cabinets in houses, whether it be their house, whether it be their grandparents' house, or whether it be a friend's house. And basically what they're doing is they'll go to a party, they'll also take some kind of pills, not knowing what those pills are, not knowing what those pills are for, crunch them up and snort it and try to get a cheap buy that way. So we're asking everyone, if you have any unused drugs, or any drugs in your house, make sure it's locked up. And you see the TV commercials, I see them all the time in the radio commercials. Watch who's using your drugs. It should only be you. And afterwards, we were asked, where can someone go and get rid of any unused drugs in DuPage County? And currently, there's just a few towns in DuPage that will have it's actually a mailbox in their lobby where you can go and just drop your drugs, no questions asked, whether they're aged or old or you just no longer use them. If I went and got a prescription for painkillers and I only use 2, but I have 10 left, I need to get rid of those other 10. So the nearest location is the Oak Brook Police Department. It's in their lobby. I know it's a bright yellow mailbox. You just drop it in there. And the other one local here is Lamont and also Lyle. I have this list up here. If people would like to get more information on this, feel free to send me an email, and I can email it back to you at chiefofpolice, all one word, at Westmont westmont.il.gov, or my other work email address is tmulhern, MULHEARN, at westmont.il.gov, and I'll send you this list back. And also, we're going to participate with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, in April. We're going to be a collector site where anyone in the community, they wish to come and drop their unused drugs on that day. It's a Saturday, I believe it's April 23rd, can do so. We'll have an officer there, and we'll take the drugs for you. So I want to thank all our guest speakers last night, and I know Trustee Addington and Trustee Barry will probably expound on it a little bit more. It was a very moving experience last night, and very well received by our residents. As brief as I could be, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chief, for being involved with that in the school and being involved with it also.
If I could also give one thanks also to District 201 for letting us use their room. And again, on last night, the weather, the snow, to have over 125 people there, we call that an unqualified success. We probably would have had a lot more. But also letting us use their room. District 60 also had some people in attendance as well. And I also wanted to give a personal thanks to Detective Mike Weibel, our school resource officer. Mike and I gave him the idea, told him to put this together and run with it. Together, I just kind of basically oversaw him, but Mike did an outstanding job in putting it together and getting the kids and the people there. So I just wanted to say thanks to Mike.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, Narcan.
Oh, the Narcan project. Narcan. There's a drug called Narcan that the fire department has been using for several years. It basically is if someone has overdosed and they're conscious and just barely breathing, the Narcan can be administered either intravenously or by needle or by a nasal spray. DuPage County is the first one in Illinois to start a pilot program. It's been popular on the East Coast in a couple of departments where police officers are being trained and being supplied with 2 vials of Narcan that they can use if they get a call of an overdose, and it's only if it's an opiate-based overdose. They can apply the syringes, the nasal spray, and it works. You were talking to Lynn Drowley from the fire department. You give it 1 spray, within seconds, the person's back and alive. And so just this Tuesday, Sergeant Gruen went to the county and participated in a train-the-trainer training. We're going to have enough supplies free of charge, not charged to us, to be given to each of our officers, and they will carry it with them daily on patrol. So if they do get an overdose, they can go and try it. The good thing about this, if it's not an opiate overdose and you apply it anyway, there's no harm, there's no side effects. It's not going to affect you. If it is an opiate overdose, it's going to bring you back. And we're also coordinating with Lynn from the fire department. She's going to assist us with some additional training to make sure that all our officers, all 38 of our officers, will have it and have it available for them, for our residents.
Very good.
I'll tell you, I have suggested to Chief that we think about putting this on maybe on the south side of town also. It was, as he said, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And you listen to the 2 ladies who lost the young man, or you listen to Kent Gore, who is recovering, and the story. And I'm telling you, it hits home awful hard, and there's not enough that we can do to just, and the message is, get rid of the unused drugs in your house properly, and if you read these, it says, don't send them down your toilet, dispose of them the right way. And the other thing is, don't even try it. Don't even do it once, because if you do it once, you're hooked.
Well, that's
how bad heroin
that was
is.
one of the things that you really come away with from this presentation, and it was really top notch. It should be it should be on film, and is that there's 3 scenarios if you try it. The rarity is that you'll get clean and get through it. The best scenario is you'll go to jail, but most likely you're going to die, and the statistics prove that. And like you say, very, very moving, and thank you to everyone involved with that. Just a wonderful presentation for the community. Thank you.
We also talked last night. I spoke to the superintendent of District 201, and I'll reach out to the superintendent of District 60. We would like to offer a school assembly where we'll have the coroner, the 2 ladies, and Nick come and speak again. They think they can get it done in a half hour, 45 minutes. They've done it out in Bartlett, and we know, and it's a success. We're probably looking at trying to do this in conjunction with Operation Prom Night. The superintendent was very receptive to the idea, and will reach out to the superintendent from District 60 as well. And we're not going to stop. If we have to do this again, there's presentations weekly, and this was just one that was, brings it home. And again, don't use it. Don't even start it. It's not something where you can, like a gateway drug, where you can try it once and decide I'm going to stop. It doesn't give you that luxury. Once you try it, you're hooked.
You're home.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. On to trustee reports or items. I'm sorry, I did.
Oh.
Thought I checked with you already, didn't I?
You did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Not a problem. Had me double thinking about it. Trustee reports, we'll start with trustee Barry.
Again, some of the residents may get tired of hearing this, but I'd like to compliment Steve and the crew on the snow removal. I drive from Bolingbrook in the heart of these storms, and it's always recognizable when you get to Westmont. I mean, and I hear it from residents, I hear it from business owners. So thank you, and I know the guys have put in super long hours. Also, my condolences to Kerry and his family at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Addington.
A couple of things. First one is Citizen of the Year. Those applications are due in now. If anybody in town has a person from Westmont that they think has done something for this community, you can get the applications here, the library, the chamber office, the park district, or you can, I think, even online, Blair? Yeah. And they're due by February 5th, but if you think there's someone in the community that has done a little extra special effort for the community, nominate him or her and get them in, because it's been something that's been going on now since 1997 and it's very positive. So we want to mention that. The other thing is, with our ongoing green efforts, with stormwater, I had mentioned to Ron that in last Friday's packet, there was this letter from ComEd about possible grants, and I would like to keep us on top of that to see if some of that we couldn't apply for some of those to take care of Steve's project on the detention pond over on 60th Street, and also with some of the other work that we're talking about doing with right-of-ways and things. So, Ron, you were gonna follow up eventually.
Yeah, we did talk about it this week at our staff meeting.
Okay, good. And if there's some free money available, let's grab it. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Seneca.
Thank you. Just to piggyback again off of trustee Barry, if you see our guys out there plowing and, 24 hours a day practically, give them a thumbs up, give them a break. They're just doing a phenomenal job. And along those lines, think about our police officers and our firefighters that are out in those elements doing, their day-to-day jobs. So all of our employees, we just really need to appreciate them and thank them. Also wanted to say that we're going to have a public safety meeting on February 6th in the executive session room, and it will begin at 5 o'clock. And I urge residents, these are open meetings. So, this is your police department, your fire department, and, come to these meetings, come to our committee meetings and participate. We would love nothing more. So that would be very important. Also, I just wanted to mention briefly that the Christmas light recycling program goes through the end of the month. You can drop those lights off. If you're like me and you have a box in your basement of all the tangled up lights, that you don't want to untangle every year, so you buy new ones, take that box, take it over to Johannick Station at 6015 South Cass, and do that before the 31st of January, and those will be out of your basement. And sympathy to Kerry Kamek, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Burke.
I just wanted to bring something to the folks' attention here. Westmont First is going to, they have a charity branch of that organization, and we have developed some ideas to bring forward to raise money for local charities that would benefit Westmont residents. One of those ideas is a Ale Harvest Craft Beer Festival. And we had some local residents that, some fellows in the town that grew up here, and they brought this to the attention of our group, and they brought it to the attention of the Park District. And it's proceeding to develop into a very viable project, to the point of they'll be before the village board eventually when all the details are ironed out. But we have a tentative date of October 11th, 2014, and the location would be Ty Warner Park. And the reason that we want to do this is to raise money for charity, but it also benefits our community and benefits our local businesses, so it fits into the Westmont First category very nicely. And what I wanted to do is to start to talk about this and make people aware of it, that you have to think of this as like a wine tasting, food pairing venue, minus the wine. They would take the wine out and they would bring in these craft beers, which are, a lot of the beers are turning into wine flavors these days. And these people are passionate about what they're doing with craft beers, making all these flavors, putting that together with food, and it really turns out to be a nice event. We're excited about this because it has the ability to draw over 3,000 people with a one-day event in the Ty Warner Park and bring them into our community. That's the kind of appeal that this type of event has. And then it's a ticket event. It's where you purchase a ticket ahead of time, so that revenue is collected on the front end, so you know if it's a success and you can plan better for that. So it's an exciting thing. We're looking forward to that. There is more to come. As far as benefiting charities, those are Westmont charities, and I just wanted to say that we are working currently with the Chamber and their educational foundation as far as being one of those charities and a partner in that, and we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's move on to items to be removed from the consent agenda. Any trustees have any items they want removed? If not, let's go on to the consent agenda. Manager Searle?
We have the following items on the consent agenda. We have the minutes for the village board meeting held January 9th, 2014. We also have the finance ordinance number 19 in the amount of $984,919.85. And then we have the following purchase orders: PO 11032583 in the amount of $5,000 to Long Realty. We have purchase order PO 11032705 to First American Title Insurance in the amount of $158,328.49. Then we have purchase order 11032711 to Irma, which is our self-insurance liability and casualty pool. This is our annual payment in the amount of $425,000. And the total of the purchase orders then is $588,328.49. Total of purchase orders and finance ordinance is $1,573,248.34. And that is the content of the consent agenda.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent
So
agenda as
moved,
presented.
Addington.
Second, Parker.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Unfinished business. We have none, Manager Searle?
We do not.
Okay, let's go on to new business. Westmont Environmental Improvement Commission. Board to consider a motion confirming the mayor's appointments to the Westmont Environmental Improvement Commission.
As you know, we created this commission a while back, and we've been soliciting interested participants. I have a list here that I'll read. And outside the door, though, we have our communications director, who may want to make some comments. They had their initial organizational meeting this evening. This is a 9-member commission. The folks that we've had volunteer are the following people: Pamela Ristow, Kim Lombardozzi, Tyler Alton Tisch, Aaron Spencer, Two names that I'm very familiar with because they were very active in the past with our last Environmental Improvement Commission, husband-wife team of Glenn and Mary Gabriel, Bob Van Hyft, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing these names correctly. And then the eighth person we have is Mary T. McAuliffe. Now, we had a ninth person who was interested but is not able to make that commitment. So we had another individual who was interested in participating. The name of this person is John Sopchak. The difficulty is this person is not a resident and a voter here in the village, which is required by ordinance. We have made some exceptions in the past. I was going to invite Larry McIntyre to come to the podium maybe and give you a little bit of an explanation about this person's background and why we think it might be beneficial to this group.
Yes, John attended our meeting just previous to this meeting and expressed his interest, and he's definitely interested in being a part of the commission. And it's my understanding that he majored as a biological engineer, and he's definitely interested in being part of the commission. So it's something for the board to consider somewhere, maybe down the road. I also wanted to mention that Trustee Barry was one of the folks who kind of spearheaded the initiative of getting this commission relaunched. His father was on the previous Environmental Improvement Commission, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because Harold's equally passionate about environmental concerns. So it's excellent that this is being restarted. And like I said a moment ago, we had our first meeting, and it went really well. Several of our folks could not make it tonight, and then a couple of folks had to leave just a little bit ago. But we have a few folks that are still here, and I thought maybe they might introduce themselves and mention their interest in these items, if that's all right. So,
Sure.
Tyler first.
Before you do that.
Oh, sure.
Was there a consensus in terms of when the meeting will occur?
We're creating a schedule right now, and I'm going to send that out and get it formally approved by the entire group. But the first meeting looks like it's going to be February 3rd, 6 p.m. And I'll be working on that agenda immediately. But as I introduced Tyler here, I just mentioned how volunteerism tends to snowball. Tyler signed up through Westmont First to be part of our leaf raking program. Came out, participated in that, found out that there was another opportunity, signed up, and so he's with us to stay. So Tyler, if you want to come up and...
Hi, my name is Tyler Touche. Moved here about a year ago to Westmont from Chicago, and just interested in getting more involved and maybe using some of what I do at my day job to actually, help people rather than the company I work for. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you and helping the community. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And Aaron?
My name's Aaron Spencer. I've been a resident here in Westmont for about 11 years, and when I saw the article in the newspaper about looking for volunteers for the Environmental Improvement Commission, I thought it might be a good way for me to get more involved with that and maybe lend a little bit of my own expertise towards that cause.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Pam with us as well. Pam and I have been talking the last couple of days, and she wasn't sure she was going to be able to make it because she has two young ones. And I said, not a problem, bring them along, and so she did. But Pam, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Pam Risto, and I moved here from the city of Chicago about 2.5 years ago. I've always been interested in environmental issues, and prior to my children arriving, and now that I've got two little ones, I'm even more interested in preserving the earth, and I feel that Westmont is a proactive community, and we just have to go with the flow and continue to work on our environmental responsibilities as a community. So, thank you.
Thank you to all of you that are here tonight for getting involved in our community. And with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the names as presented.
So move, Seneca.
Second, Barry?
Do we need a separate motion to waive the residency portion?
Yes, if we're going to do that.
So let's approve the 8, and then we'll do that one as a separate.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Okay, you know, any discussion first? I'm sorry. You said-
No, that was going to be the question I had, so we're fine with that.
Trustee Seneca? Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
You guys are aware we're going to put you to work. There's several issues, and we appreciate very much jumping on board.
And then we'll do. Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion to waive the residency for the,
For this, John.
yeah, John Sopak.
Yeah, and again, this is an advisory commission, they don't make, so I will make that motion to waive the residency.
They have a second?
Second by Barry.
Discussion? I think anybody that wants to help this town, whether they live in this town or not, is
I
welcome.
think it's
Where
wonderful,
does
you
he-
know,
where does
given
he
his
hail from?
background, that he wants to.
He lives in Willowbrook, so he's nearby.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding he's engaged to a Westmont resident, so he might be moving here
Oh,
soon.
well,
That's close enough.
yeah, works for me.
I've also heard, I've heard that,
He could.
Westmont resident's father-in-law is very involved in the village. I've heard that he really gives back.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Okay, passes. B, 19 West Ogden Avenue, Connie's Pizza and Potbelly Sandwich Shop. Or to consider an ordinance approving the following request from Crown Commercial Real Estate and Development to construct a multi-tenant building with 2 restaurants in the B2 General Business District. Site and landscape plan approval, zoning code variance to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls, zoning code variance to reduce the required front yard setback, special use permit to operate a restaurant with an associated drive-in, and a parking stall size waiver. Mr. Manager.
Applicant requests approval for an 8,370 square foot building with 2 retail tenants and 2 restaurants. Potbelly needs a special use for the drive-through for the east corner space. A variance is requested to reduce the required parking stalls from 45 to 35. The site plan provides 7 queued vehicle spaces at the drive-through. A parking stall waiver is requested to provide 10 by 18 rather than 10 by 20 parking stalls. Phillips Flowers asked questions about the building architecture, parking, and loading area at the Plan Commission. Commission made a positive recommendation after holding the public hearing and making comments about the outdoor dining, parking lot, Ogden Avenue curb cut, and fencing. Revised plans taking into account public hearing comments from the commission are attached. We have the petitioner here.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Peter Mataminos, the architect for the project. I just want to say quickly, I'm not from Westmont, but the students were really amazing. They were really impressive. And if there is somebody you can recommend for Person of the Year, is their teacher. I don't know, I can't do it, but I think it's, they're very brave and they really need the exposure to be fantastic. I'm not sure how much of this, you know this project, and I can go through a quick synopsis of it. It's the existing Connie's Pizza, as you know. It's on Grant and Ogden Avenue. The existing building's about 9,200 square feet, and with the existing parking lot, there is no storm retention currently. Our goal is to build a new, demolish it completely, and build a new 8,370 square foot retail center oriented towards Ogden Avenue, the parking in the rear, with the storm retention under the parking lot and the vault below it. It's 1 story. Landscaping is per the ordinances. We're not asking for any variation there. The building itself is basically has 4 front facades. There really isn't a rear facade to this. Both sides facing Ogden and facing the parking lot will be of the same quality. There'll be face brick all around. There'll be a detail of a white aluminum panel that actually works its way up and over the side and runs across the short side as well. That will serve not only decorative, but also serves as our screening for rooftop equipment. So we won't have any separate big screens up there that actually look worse than the units themselves. So that is the building itself. The changes from what we presented in the first go-around happens right here. There is a drive-through window here which juts out a bit. The previous submittal had this window located on this side. This ended up being Potbelly's kitchen, and this ended up, the way their layout is now would be their dining area. So they have their dining area on the Ogden side, which then leads us into, let's go to landscaping. We are planning on using the front setback for 2 dining areas, one for Connie's Pizza on the west and then for Potbelly on the east. Will be landscaped and it will have a fence around it. People will be seated from the inside out. It's not like you can just walk in from the street side, but it will be from the internal to go out. I can go through variances if you like, explain the thinking process there. That will help. Working our way back to front, using required setbacks and such. Along the south property line, by the way, there's a retaining wall, which is currently leaning and needs to be rebuilt. We're planning on rebuilding that retaining wall and adding a fence. In the previous hearing, they did ask us to switch to a vinyl fence in lieu of a wood fence for maintenance reasons and longevity, which in your package, you do have that change to vinyl fence. Working forward, using code-required aisle spaces, and you'll see that one of the variances we're looking for is to lessen from 20 feet deep of a parking space to 18, basically picking up 8 feet so that we can encroach as little as possible onto the front setback. We will be encroaching roughly about 5 feet, keeping our building at 60 feet. Less than that, even taking that 8 feet out and even the 5 feet out, would just make the building so narrow that it'd be unleasable. And keeping that 60-foot depth allows us to encroach as you know, modern land planning is moving that way, moving buildings more towards the street, using the advantage of the streetscape and using that for, like we're using it here, for outdoor cafes and such. It's just kind of like people are getting away from, the land planners are getting away from putting all the parking up on the street and the buildings in the back. It's more pedestrian. It keeps the avenues more active, having more activity right on the street. And that's how this basically works its way out. So the encroachment of 5 feet is what we're asking for on the front setback, and we are going to utilize it for some outdoor seating. And we did talk about the parking space sizes. The parking number of parking spaces goes hand in hand with the special use. The special use for a drive-through is something we're requesting. It's something that Potbelly has asked for, and you can see that here on the west side. One of the requirements of the previous hearing was that we did splay this driveway. Sorry, covering that up. So it'd be right out only to keep any traffic going towards the west, towards this intersection, to 0. So we did change that driveway to move its way out. One of the other items is, before we get into parking, I just want to jump on a couple of things that came up last time in the hearing, is snow areas to store snow. We originally had the driveway, the loading area and the trash area together back in this corner. What we've done now is we split them up, put the trash area along the street so it's easier in and out to collect the garbage, and left this loading area on the end. Now, having 2 restaurant uses, that loading area will never be used because restaurants want to stock before they open. They want to stock very early so they can be ready for their day. And the leftover retail spaces in the center will most likely be very low density, It'd be offices or such. There's not much space to get any high volume out of it. So in essence, our loading area, which is required and we are supplying it, will be basically empty. Basically not used. So we do have areas around the site to store snow, and we do have that loading area to store snow, and if there's a lot of snow like we've had, the owner has put into place where he can cart it off-site, get it off-site. The other item that came up was, we talked about the fence, driveway, and there was a grease basin. There was a grease basin previously. There's a grease basin on the site right now. There's one for Connie's Pizza. It sits right about there. So the original engineering took it and moved it up along the same line before it connects into the main line. This is really the old way of doing things. They had the catch basin on the outside, and they would pump it out, and it was a big mess. The modern way of doing it is that it's all done internally. All the maintenance is done internally. All the grease is caught. It's either reclaimed or cleaned or maintained from the interior of each restaurant, and there is no need for any external tanks or such to collect the grease. So that issue really went away with as the plumbing engineer looked at it as opposed to the civil engineer, that's not an issue. We're going to do that all internally. Going back to parking now, the last item would be the number of parking spaces. And it goes hand in hand with a special use for the drive-through, and it was a requirement of Potbelly to have this. Just looking at numbers, if we were to look at this building as a whole, and if it was all retail, we'd be required to have 42 spaces if it was all, and they would be, if it was actually high-volume retail. If this was, let's say, one grocery store, it was high-volume retail. And that's what we've used as our parking ratios. It'd be one space for every 200 square feet. We'd be required to have 42 spaces. We have 45 on the site. We wouldn't be asking for any variances. If you look at the site again, and knowing that the two end caps are restaurants, them being both sit-down restaurants, we'd be required to have 38 spaces, and we still have 45, so we still wouldn't be asking you for a variance. The trick here is that it's a drive-through, and the drive-through, for some odd reason, requires more parking for a drive-through than if it was a sit-down restaurant. Now, that Potbelly is going to be built the same way if it had the drive-through or not, and it'll seat the same amount of people, and it will serve more people with the drive-through, but having the drive-through bumps up our required parking to 63 spaces. And that, again, falls into the odd item in the ordinance, and we have to abide by it or ask for variance on it. It's just an odd thing in the variance that we have to deal with. So if you were to then go back to the moderate or high volume or low volume retail, what's left over in the center, the small retails in the center will, at least I could tell, be a low volume retailer. So in the end, if they were low volume retailers, we would only require, we'd only be 9 spaces short. So that's the relief we're asking for tonight. There was a little misprint in your write-up, but those are the numbers. And it really comes down to that drive-through pushing us into this odd number of parking spaces required as a drive-through.
Interesting.
What's the square footage of the two little?
The retail in the center, the leftover is 2570 square feet, just over 2,500 square feet.
Oh, no, the square footage in those two units. Do you know what the footage is inside there?
Yeah, each one is 1285.
Okay, thank you.
So combined, it's 2,500.
Can you tell me how many jobs this will bring to Westmont? Let's say for the two restaurants, is an average.
Roughly.
I think they're probably close to 40, 50 jobs.
Nice.
But that would be split shifts,
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
so employees at any one time, let's say that. Let's say a day shift for argument's sake.
Depends on how much volume they do. Connie's able to capture back some of the business that they had. They've been here for 40 years.
You want to come up so the audience can hear it too, please?
Musatagos, thank you. I think they're going to probably be at least 50 jobs that be created, and that's just from those two restaurant units. Potbelly expects to do well with the drive-through, and without a drive-through, we wouldn't be able to develop that site.
Amount of seating in each one?
Not a great
44.
deal.
We worked it out where there's 44 in the Connie's and about 24 in the Potbelly.
Right.
It'd be, from what we can tell, not knowing the retail, it'd be about 20 employees there. Again, depending on shift, depending on weekend, depending on special occasions, it's just hard to tell. But that was the average we worked on.
I guess I'm just trying to look at the amount of employees that could be there at a rush hour time, the amount of customers that could be there at a rush hour time, and the amount of parking that's there. And it, to me, just doesn't seem to fit. If you've got a rush, it's lunchtime, and you got a heavy crew in there, and you got a lot of people. I mean, your employees alone, let's face it, between two restaurants could be 15. Maybe, who knows, but I'm just guessing at 15 between the two. Theoretically, it could be 15 parking spaces, maybe not, but I'm worried about snow removal, I'm worried about deliveries, which we haven't talked about yet.
Sure.
Is another issue, and what time is that, and where is the delivery gonna be made at? But if you could answer that part.
Yeah, well, Connie's isn't really a big lunch crowd.
Okay.
Mostly dinner, delivery, pickup. So there's not a lot of seating in there. But we wanted to provide, because Westmont's been used to having maybe a 10,000 square foot Connie's, and now they're down to 3,500 square feet. And then, right now, the Naperville store is the one that's supplying the pizzas to Westmont. And Potbelly's the one that does lunch and dinner. So
Okay.
I think
Well,
it'll be-
and there'd be a turnover. You know, those
Sure.
tables turn fast, so.
Right, but still, if you've
Yeah.
got, and the other issue I have marked is, you're gonna have a drive-through that comes through there.
Yeah.
I've seen it at competitors where
Right.
the drive-through is crowded, and those cars can't get out that are trying to leave. So if you got somebody who's parked there, and you got somebody who wants to leave, but that line comes all the way down through, because if they're as successful, let's say, as a Portillo's, which
Right.
hopefully they are, then what happens is you go down to a Portillo's, and those people can't get out half the time. They're kind of locked in there because their aisle is full of cars waiting to get into the drive-through. So what does that do for that situation there? Because you're kind of landlocked and car locked.
Well, it's a small site, and we can't, really provide answers to every possible scenario that's out there. We're building a smaller building, we're adding landscaping, we're beautifying what's existing right now. And I believe most of the business for Potbelly is the drive-through, otherwise they would not be taking this at any.
I'm just trying to look at
Sure. No, it
issues
makes-
that could come in the future, which has happened
Sure.
at that competitor, which they had to reconfigure everything because there just wasn't enough space for what they had. And hopefully, we have to look at that in the future for
That's right.
your companies, and that's the issue, and you have to look
That
for
wouldn't
more
be
land acquisition and stuff, but I think it's just something that
Sure.
has to be asked.
That wouldn't be the worst problem to have.
That's a valid point, and there wasn't any guidelines for stacking for restaurants, but we used the banking. We used the banking guidelines, which does address it and does ask for 6. We have 7. We have actually a little bit longer than what's required, and there is, having the loading area right behind there, you can squeeze a couple more cars in there before you really get into a blocking situation. And we do have the pass-through lane on the right. If someone needs to get out of that lane, they can do that too. But again, as far as the guidelines, as far as code, 6 was the requirement, we do have 7. 6, correct.
To the drive-up
But we do make 7.
exiting there, did you say that we kind of made you narrow that so nobody would come in?
Yeah, originally we had a right-in,
They can
right or
turn.
left. It was a full right or left turn. It's a one-way out.
Because to me, it seems that narrowing there poses problems for snow removal, for, you have 2 lanes coming into one there. But if that was the direction that,
That was, so you make sure the cars turn right is really just forcing them. And that was a recommendation from a couple weeks ago here.
Well, they'd be stacked up forever if you didn't, though.
They're concerned about making a left turn on Cass, or not onto Ogden.
Ogden, yeah.
Making the left turn onto Ogden would really back things up.
And leaving 2 lanes to turn right, everyone will turn left.
Right.
If you give them an opportunity, they'll just turn left.
Some are still gonna turn left regardless of what you do.
They're still claiming.
because
The chief will take
I
care
look at
of
the
it.
bank, like by your business, where they have more so of an island out there because, well, again, I guess you're right turn only then out of there always, so.
Yeah, it's one way out.
Well, they have a one-way in and one-way out.
Which is abused.
Yeah, right, but
It's
it's,
abused.
it's the same idea, though. You can only turn right going on to Ogden at that
Right.
bank. Anything from staff?
I was just going to suggest that the employee parking could also be in the back here, so that way if the queuing comes out and blocks it, at least the employees are negatively impacted rather than the customers.
Oh,
So
good
that would be
idea.
an option for them to have the employees park there first when they got there.
Should.
The street presence of the development will be very positive, as the outdoor dining is going to make Ogden Avenue much more vibrant. The increased landscaping and stormwater detention will be a big improvement to the site. We're excited to welcome Potbelly sandwiches, and our staff, particularly Public Works, is very excited for Connie's to reopen.
And one other thing, is there any potential retail tenants there at this point?
I did talk to, they weren't necessarily retailers. One of them was, I guess they cook food somewhere else and they sell chef food, something like either freezer or cooler. if they were interested in there, and I got a call from an insurance company. I did get a call from Starbucks, but I can't accommodate Starbucks and Potbelly and give both of them drive-through. I also did try to contact the neighbor east of me to see if he was interested in selling, because it's mostly a vacant shopping center. I called him at least 10 times in the last 3 years, and as of last week, they were not interested.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for him?
Looks like
I
a
just
great
have a couple
project.
Sure, go ahead.
I spoke to John Zemanek, who actually attended the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I guess there was concern about the grease trap, and I think that you've moved it as a result. And that is part of what is in the ordinance, if you read Section 5, letter A. Additionally, in the ordinance, it does have a requirement for that left turn, or excuse me, a right turn only, no left turn out of that Ogden Avenue access. That was another requirement from Planning and Zoning, and that is listed here in the ordinance as well under Section 5B. And then finally, John Zemanek indicated that there was concern over the snow removal, and from what I'm understanding you're saying is that because there's a loading area, if there is a huge snowfall like we've had lately, you could actually store the snow in that loading area. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yes, and
For
if there's-
because I know that there was concern that you may have to relocate that snow to another site based upon the size of that parcel.
And it basically comes down to the quantity of the snow. We can temporarily hold it there, and if there is no other, and we do have landscape islands and areas towards the street that we can, and long landscape island, that's where the menu sign is. So a lot of spaces we can store snow, it just comes down to the volume of it. And we did speak last time, if there's way so much snow, we can temporarily hold it there until we can get it trucked off.
Okay.
And it might be driven by the amount of snow and the complaints by the tenants.
Yeah.
True.
Also, because if they can't get customers to come in there, or enough of them, and they're leaving because of that, it'll have to be addressed, or.
Well, in worst case scenario, you're gonna haul it out, and again, to yours, that's a good problem to have. If you need that space and it's worth it to pay you to haul it out, that's great. We hope that that's the scenario.
And at least where we're planning on putting it is way back in the corner, where at least we can get access to our building, get customers to park, and then we can get rid of it as the day goes by.
Okay, so just so the trustees are aware, even though I called the snow removal attention to you, it's not actually in the ordinance. If you wanted to add that as one of the conditions, we could do that. And then finally, as you were speaking, I realized the ordinance actually talks about your parking reduction variance request. It says from 45 to 35, so that portion of the ordinance will have to be changed anyway, because apparently it's 55 spaces that are required, and you have provided 45.
45, yes.
Along those lines with the parking, I'm surprised too that a drive-through would trigger the need for additional parking, and I'm thinking maybe that's something at a future time we need to look at. What's the rationale behind that, Joel? Do we know?
Honestly, it surprised me too, and I think it's something we definitely need to look at for the text
Yeah, I think
amendment.
we need to.
That's what I was trying to translate. Agenda item is what I was trying to tell you.
Oh, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
told him put it on his next meeting.
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
to
I don't
address
even think it has to go to committee. I think that's sort of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think we'll do some research and
Just bring
see.
it to the board. We need to fix that.
Right, right, agreed.
If that was fixed, then we wouldn't be getting the variance, because
Right.
Right.
it's actually backward.
Absolutely.
Sounds like
It's
it.
completely
It
back.
should almost be if you don't have a drive-through, you
Sure.
need more
No,
space.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, it should be.
Maybe it's a typo. Who knows?
People actually order online and then just come through the drive-thru.
And just pick it up. Yeah, I think this is a great project, and trustee Nero called earlier, and he wanted me to convey his strong support for this project. He's very happy with it.
I also wanted to say that the planning and zoning did an excellent job in reviewing this project.
Oh.
They found it all out, so they did a great job.
Good. So on this then, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So move Seneca?
Second Addington.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Does anybody want to add the snow issue or not? I just, okay. That was my only comment. Okay.
It'll be up to them to, they have to handle it, and the customers are, the stores are gonna have to make the complaint to it. And
I personally think we'd be setting a bad precedent, you
Yeah,
know, because
I
how
mean,
would we go
it's-
back and, you know, say where people should put snow and things, it's just so hard when Mother Nature's involved.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think we need that either.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
That's it. Motion passes. Welcome to Westmont. Thank you very much.
One more thing before you guys, any type of time frame when we hope to be
Oh,
open?
good question.
Probably late summer, I guess as fast as you can give us permits.
Very good, thank you.
Potbelly wants to open this year for sure, so they're
Great.
one
So as soon
public.
as the weather breaks, you'll demolish and start building right away.
Well, as soon as you give us the authority, he's gonna start drafting blueprints.
All right, good.
Be sure to be involved with our Chamber of Commerce. They're
Amen.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry's gonna tackle him outside right now.
Okay, let's move on to C. 2014 Westmont Electronics Recycling Program. Board to consider an ordinance to close the public parking area on the north side of West Quincy between Lincoln and Grant once a month for resident electronic recycling drop-off services. Manager Searle?
I request to move the drop-off location this year to the public right-of-way across from the Village Hall here at 31 West Quincy. The program will run from May through December with the day and time staying the same, the second Friday of each month from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. A combination of public works, CMA volunteers, and recycling company personnel will staff the event. The county program listing of acceptable items is expected to be the same as in last year's event. And this was something that was suggested as an idea maybe to draw more attention by having it here in the downtown. Thought we would try it.
Also a little more centrally located for the whole community this
It
way.
is more centrally located. This event cannot be restricted to Westmont residents only because of the county partnership, but as trustee Addington suggested, maybe by having it more in the central part of town, it might be more accessible to more residents. So,
Well, and it brings people from out of town in our downtown area too.
There you
Yeah.
go.
It's
Is
just
it
a
up
draw
for
right there.
discussion? Should we discuss now, or is it?
Well, I'm going to entertain a motion and then we can discuss.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second?
For
Comments?
discussion, for discussion. right?
Now you.
Yeah, I like the idea of moving it downtown like we talked. I attended the last electronic recycling program, and the guys didn't seem to be in much favor of having it down here. They seemed to think that they didn't have enough room where they were at to maneuver and load trucks. From talking to other people, they said, well, maybe they just don't like change, but that was the feeling that I received that last recycling program, that the guys were very concerned how they were going to do it as far as fork trucks and moving stuff around, and I wanted to pass that along. Again, I like all the ideas of having it exposed and stuff, but from talking to the guys, they had concerns.
I actually had that same thought, because if you've ever dropped anything off there, there's just stacks and stacks, I mean, and the big empty trailer, and I kind of wondered logistically how it's going to all fit.
And I
but-
think that was some of the problem with Johannick's Fire Station, is that there was concern there with the gravel parking lot, that we'd have residents possibly, walking on uneven and.
Well, you got a fork truck that's going to be driving.
Fork
on it.
truck and snow, well, I guess we don't do it in the winter, but again, the guys had some concern there. I do like the exposure aspect of it, but maybe something we need to
Is that something we've talked to Steve May and his crew about?
Sure. I mean, and with Larry, we've reviewed multiple locations, and, yes, it's different, and, I'll just agree, if you were on a football field, you'd have all kinds of room to, do it any way you want, but it's certainly capable of organizing it so that it can be done. It'd be more difficult, probably, but, all solvable.
Well, let's give it a try and see what happens, and we can always
Be
look
great
at
to
it
have
again.
it downtown.
Yeah,
Like
but
you
it
say,
brings-
look at all those people coming in.
Right. So, okay, we have a motion and a second. We've discussed it. Roll call, please. Are there any other questions or comments from the trustees? Nobody? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes. D, investment policy. Board to consider an ordinance amending the Village of Westmont investment policy. Manager Searle?
The village investment policy was reviewed at our last Administration Finance Committee to allow the village to earn higher interest rates while preserving funds. Suggested changes include an increase to a maximum maturity from 1 year to 3.5 years. Additionally, the new policy increases types of authorized investments, increases the amount of collateral pledged to secure village deposits. Changes were made in order of items, and a glossary is included in the packet. And our finance director, Spencer Parker, here is to address and questions, and maybe can add some additional comments from the discussion that we had at the last Administration Finance Committee meeting.
Sure. So I just wanted to, so first of all, I think that pretty much sums up the majority of the issues with the investment policy and kind of highlights the major changes with it. The biggest one, as we discussed at the committee level, was the change in the maximum maturity length. Currently, we're limited to things that are under a year, and there's just not a lot of opportunities for investment that are under a year. There's some, and we can certainly do things with it, and we'd obviously, even with the change, still have some of ours is under a year. We would be structuring to make sure that we have some coming due at different times, so we always have the cash flow that we need, but we'd be able to put some of the money that we've received, especially some of the ones we've received from a bond, that we're not going to be spending for a couple of years, into a little bit longer term investment, so we can make a little bit more money on that, as well as our other cash that we have sitting available. We talked at the meeting how most of our cash currently is in money markets. We've got a little bit in CDs, and we'd like to be able to get them a little bit longer term CDs to be able to make a little bit more money. The other thing that we noticed as we went through the various different communities whose policies we've compared has been the amount of the collateral. And the collateral is when we have deposits at a bank that are above the amount that's insured by the FDIC, we want to make sure that our money is safe if anything happens to the bank. And so the bank holds money in our name at another institution. So if the bank does have any issues, our money is still safe. And currently our policy just says that the banks have to hold 100% of our money, the value equal to 100% at another institution. And most of the other communities around all said they wanted the banks to hold 110% on a general basis, so that, during the fluctuations of the month or something, if there's a little bit more at one time, we're still covered with that. So if they target 110%, then we should still be covered. So that's another of the big changes we wanted to do, and we don't think that that'll pose a problem for our financial institutions. And our main financial institution already collateralizes more than that currently, so that shouldn't be an issue with that. And then the other issues, as you probably saw with the red line version, you probably saw there were several items that were just kind of moved around to be more consistent with the model policies and with some of the other policies, and put sort of similar type items together. I know this was discussed in more depth at the Admin Finance Committee, but if there's any further questions.
Spencer, whose idea was it?
It's something that I've been thinking about for the last little while, just that we needed to do something with it to kind of adjust where our money was stored so we kind of improve it. And then it was discussed at an Admin Finance Committee meeting, and it was brought up sort of independently there that this would be a good idea. We needed to take a look at it, and so it's something that's kind of come from different sources. You'll also recall a couple Admin Finance meetings ago when we had a discussion about a 457 and trying to include local vendors, as well as when we were doing the bonds, we talked about trying to use local vendors. And so kind of as part of the idea of looking at managing our money a little bit better and getting a little bit better return on investment, we've approached a local vendor who also suggested that we take a look at our investment policy. And it's something else that came up with another discussion previously when we'd been meeting with Downers Grove and talking with them about their investments. So it's kind of come from a lot of different sources, all pointing to the same thing, that it's time to upgrade our investment policy and try to be a little bit more proactive with our cash management.
Thank you, Spencer. Good job.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Addington.
Second, Parker.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes. E, mutual aid box alarm system. Board to consider an ordinance authorizing an addendum to the master agreement of the mutual aid box alarm system, Mavis. Andrew Searle.
To be eligible to receive mutual aid, agreeing to the mutual aid agreement through Mavis is required. This addendum is to agree in advance to compensation for that aid. As many of you know, Chief Weiss has been out ill this week. We have the Director of Administration, Craig Scala, here. He can explain any specific changes in this particular agreement. I know we've been part of Mavis for how many years? I know we've had agreements with them.
We've been part of Mavis for 30 years that I'm aware of. It's been around a long time. What this agreement is, it comes up every few years. What they want to ensure is that if we provide help to somebody, we're not going to charge them. And in turn, when they come to us for help, to provide help to us, they're not going to bill us for anything. So it's, the only thing we pay for right now is a rehab unit, and we just pay a few dollars for the stuff that we use. And that's water and some snacks for the guys after fires, after box alarms only. And that's like, $20, $30 if that. But under normal circumstances, there is no charge for equipment.
So it's a critical agreement for our continued collaboration with local departments in our Mavis area.
There are 18 departments in Mavis Division 10, and all 18 benefit from each other's help.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move, Seneca.
Second by Barry.
Do a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
F, Range Service Agreement. Board to consider an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Sarge's Range Service, Inc. to remove lead from the Westmont Police Department firing range.
The EPA and OSHA require the firing range to be cleaned and lead removed periodically, following certain regulations by an authorized company, and that this particular company we're talking about, Sarge's Range, has that qualification. The agreement outlines these requirements. There are no changes to the agreement from previous years, and Chief Mulhern's here to comment or answer any specific questions about.
We've used them for several years, and the purchase order is already approved. It's just that this contract didn't get caught up in that process with the purchase order.
Do they pay us for the lead? I was just curious. Lead's
No,
very.
it's a hazardous material. It has to be in a hazardous material box and treated as hazardous material, hazardous waste. No, they don't.
It's not a recycled?
No, it's not. We keep our own brass. I don't know if that's different, but the lead, no, it's a contaminated substance. It's got to be handled as a hazardous material.
I'm involved at a shooting club where they actually, the service comes and pays the club to pick it all up and haul it away. That's why I asked that.
I haven't heard that before. It's all with the EPA cleaning and.
I'm sure it gets reused again.
All I know, they package it up, and again, it's treated as hazardous material with the EPA, and they have certain ways of disposing.
Maybe something our environmental committee would look into. Where is that going?
Good idea.
You gave me something to start doing tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Barker.
Second, Addington.
We have a motion. Any questions? Any other comments? None? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes. Okay, we are in G. Request for approval of change in plans number 1 final. Board to consider an ordinance approving a request for approval of change in plans, change order number 1 and final for the 2013 motor fuel tax resurfacing project, MFT 13-00000-01-GM.
On September 19th, 2013, the village awarded the 2013 MFT resurfacing project to K5 Construction Lamont in the amount of $159,954.24. Construction was completed. Final quantities measured reflect a net decrease of $9,655.83. That's approximately a 6% decrease to the original contract. Obviously, staff is recommending approval of the change order.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Barry.
Second, Addington.
Comments or questions from the trustees? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Motion approves. H, CSAC LLC, Board to consider an ordinance authorizing an agreement with CSAC LLC for a license to publicly perform compositions, the performing rights to which CSAC controls.
There are 3 different organizations that control the use of licensed music, and this is one of those. This particular agreement, I believe the cost for a government, unless I'm confusing it with the last one, is about $350 a year. And it's been, this is something that's been reviewed by our communications director with our village attorney, and we're recommending that we authorize this agreement so that we don't run the risk of using any kind of music in a public setting that would violate a license.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Addington.
Second, Scott. Sleeping. Comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes. I, meeting start time. Board to consider an ordinance to officially change the meeting time from 7:30 PM to 7 PM.
I think this is a great idea.
This is an interesting history.
I was figuring you were
I think it was Mark Forsley's idea.
Yeah, it was, the change was actually made
It
back in
was.
2009. However, we recently learned that the ordinance never got codified into the municipal code. And in talking to the village attorney, it was his recommendation that since it's been so long, that we reaffirm that by passing another ordinance and making sure it gets codified by muni code. So that is what that's about.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're trying to do.
I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Seneca.
Second, Addington.
Comments or questions?
This is nothing we should postpone, right?
You know,
To a later time?
Trustee Nero might want to
But
have
do it for
a
another 5
comment. You know,
years,
he may have
Hire
something
a
to say on
consultant to
this, so.
study the,
Roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes. 10, miscellaneous. Anybody have anything to bring before the board?
Oh, I can't believe that.
Wait until the mayor's back.
Why don't we just call this section Trustee Barry?
I could.
You know,
Okay. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the purchase of real property for the use of the village.
motion by Addington to go into executive session for land acquisition.
Second, Scott. Comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anything that will come back for?
no, there's no action needed at this point.
So we'll adjourn to executive session.
Right. No, we're not coming back to take any other action.
We will not be coming back to take any other further actions. Thank you. Good night.